Good morning, boys and girls, from Black Powder headquarters and the Bojangles studio high on Sassafras Mountain. CDA presents Real Tree Radio. Welcome to a brand new, unused Saturday morning. Good morning, boys and girls, from high in the mountains in North Georgia in the Bojangles studio. This is O'Neill Outside. Welcome to a brand new, unused Saturday morning. It's the weekend, for crying out loud. Spend it with your family. Go fishing, go hunting, hunting? Well, you can hunt something. And go camping, hiking, whatever. Spend the outdoors with your family this weekend. Woman Williams is here. Yes, after a few weeks of being off and here and there, Woman Williams is with us this morning, and she's handling the Facebook portion of O'Neill Outside, plus counseling me with my mistakes from time to time. Karen and Brian Green are in the studio in Peachtree City. Jason Byers is in the WSB studio, and we have WSB and the Sports Broadcast Nation O'Neill Outside program all over the country, from Sacramento to Pittsburgh, Houston, Columbus, Little Rock, my goodness, St. Louis, you name it. We're there, and it's 7 after the hour, and we're ready to entertain your calls. We're talking outdoors here, live, the #1 live outdoor-based radio talk show in the country. The telephone numbers are 404-872-0750, or outside the Atlanta calling area, it's 800-972-8255. It's my pleasure to invite you to watch O'Neill Outside television on the Pursuit Channel, Fox networks all over the country, and this week we are in Canada fishing for walleye. And one of these days I'm going to go back. You should, if you ever have opportunity, you should go there to Canada and catch, I don't know, 100 a day. We'll have the Silent Hero account this morning, the Medal of Honor tribute, and, of course, your calls at 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. And you can watch us on Facebook and send your questions to Gail. She operates the Facebook page. And go to O'Neill Outside. Lastly, before I go on the first segment here, self-promotion. You ready? My book. It's called O'Neill Outside. All you have to do is visit o'neilloutside.com, click on the cover of the book, buy it from Amazon, paperback, and the e-versions, and we'll talk about that more. We'll be back. It's my pleasure. Welcome back. It's my pleasure and insistence that I tell you that this program is brought to you in the Atlanta area every week by Tough Shed, Horsetown, Hayes, Realtree, Fire Aid, Timbuktu Outdoors, Truth Turn Hooks and Roadrunner Lures, Crocodile Bay Resort, Stripling's General Store in Bogart, Georgia, Works Tools, the Whitetail Institute, Rugged Ridge, Jeep Parts, and the Governor's Gun Club. So it's 12 after the hour. The telephone numbers are 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. And here's one of the features of the first hour that we get all our information in is Mac Farr. What do you say, Mac?
How are you this morning?
Just fine. You got the Ram Fishing Report, huh?
I got the Ram Fishing Report ready to go, and it's a good one.
Oh, good. You got plenty of water, don't you?
We got plenty of water, yeah. You can't get too much of a good thing. I think we're getting to that point.
I believe so.
As a matter of fact, I just looked on the radar. There's another whopper storm, but it's going to be south of Lanier. But, yeah, it's going to go in somebody's watershed.
Oh,
They're all
boy.
filling up. So this, yeah, very unusual circumstances for May or June. We're in June now.
Yes.
So it's kind of interesting. But that hasn't slowed down the fishing. I think the biggest challenge to fishermen is you got a lot of big influx of dirty water, new water in a lot of places, probably move some fish around. But historically, from what I've seen, when a lake comes up, like our local, not just Lanier, but our local lakes have, the fish will come up with it. They'll tend to pull up shallow.
Oh, I see.
And we're seeing some of that on Lanier with the bass particularly. There's a lot of bass in flooded little buck bushes and blowdowns that you can catch. Just take a Cinco and a weedless wonder and pitch it up to that stuff.
Really?
That bite's been really, really good. Better early and late, but you can do it all day long. We're getting and some of our fish, too, though, stayed out where they should be in June. A lot of fish in brush, main lake brush, 20, 22 fish. I'm talking about the bass.
Mm-hmm.
You catch those with topwater swim baits or a worm. You throw a worm down there, and they'll eat that. The stripers that's largely, we got a pretty good topwater bite there. Points, shallow humps. You can catch them with live bait on a weighted free line. It's just a move fast pattern. Catch one or two and then go. Catch one or two and go type of mentality. So, but it's all good. The fish are biting.
Well, there's no reason to think then, under these water conditions and temperatures and the month and the moon phase and the length of photo period, that the same thing that you just told me could be applied for Hartwell or the lakes in northern Alabama or western North Carolina or in East Tennessee.
Oh, absolutely. And I've talked to guys in Alabama. I've talked to guys in Tennessee, and they're catching fish. Patterns are pretty much the same. And, just fish the lower ends where you've got good stable water. It's coming up, but it's not dirty like it is up in the rivers. And the other challenge I think right now that's kind of tough is we're really in that transition period where we're leaving spring and we're going to summer.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting to see some fish get a little bit deeper. Matter of fact, I got a picture from my buddy Nate Key up at Hartwell, guide up there, one of my colleagues. He caught his first fish power reeling a spoon on Friday, yesterday, I guess. So, yeah, we're starting to get – they're on the cuff. They're starting to get in that deep water, true summer pattern. So watch that. But other than that, they're biting. It's just a matter of where they're at.
How often do you put a report or photos or video on your Facebook page? I see that a lot.
Well, that's a good question. Thanks for asking. We do a fishing report. What we're doing right now, the RAM report's just a little more detailed online, and we talk about bass, crappie, and stripers. We post that every Friday. Then we try and post pictures or videos pretty much weekly, every other day or something like that.
Okay. Well, that's at the RAM Fishing Report with Captain Mac, right?
Absolutely.
Well, if we read the report, it'll work out for you because it's going to be the same, right?
It's what we just talked about with a little more detail.
There you
Absolutely. Go. And it is applicable to other lakes. It's based on what we're doing right here, but it has merit somewhere else, like the lakes you mentioned, Hartwell, northern Alabama, striper lakes, even some in Tennessee, Virginia, perhaps.
That's
if you say a striper's a striper's a striper.
That's right. He doesn't know where he lives. Thanks for calling, Mac. It's always a pleasure.
Everybody, thank you. Always a hoot. Everybody be safe on the lake. Get out there and get after them. Be careful. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Mac. Yes, ma'am. You sat like you got something to say. I can tell.
Let's see. We had someone ask a question.
Okay.
He says, this is from Greg. Could you please ask O'Neill his favorite color of rubber worm and why? He says, I have about 20 different colors, and I'm wondering if it's a waste of money buying different colors.
Okay.
And let me finish.
All right.
Because I gave him wrong information. I answered it on Facebook, and I was totally incorrect.
Okay.
So just shoot me.
And the information you...
I said chartreuse.
Chartreuse, okay.
Because that's usually the answer.
Well,
that's not
the chartreuse answer is it doesn't matter what color spinnerbait you use as long as it's chartreuse. Spinnerbait, by and large, is a shallow water bait. Chartreuse is, you can't go wrong with chartreuse. As far as a plastic worm, and they're not rubber, they're plastic, you match the color of the worm to the conditions of the day or the water. Clear water, light colored worm. Dark water, dark day, dark worm. If it's muddy water on a cloudy day, a black worm is as good as any. If it's a bright, clear day in clear water, use a chartreuse or a light green or motor oil. I like a translucent color, maybe red. Maybe something that you can see through. Make it translucent. If it's a dark day, make it opaque color. A dark purple or something like that that you can't see through. You match the color of the worm to the color of the water and the light of the brightness of the day. There's your answer for me. Now, it's important, I think, and I'm going to speak to Richard now, but it's important that when I give you tips like that, or you hear tips from people at seminars and on television, by and large, those tips, those recommendations will catch you 12 fish instead of 10, not 50 fish instead of 10. It will make you better. It will hone your chances to being successful if you stick to general principles over time. Now, let's talk to Richard. He's calling O'Neill outside. He's calling from Virginia. Good morning, Richard. What do you say?
Well, it's close to Virginia. It's actually the western part of Virginia.
Oh, yeah, I see. West Virginia. I'm sorry, Richard.
Called West Virginia.
Yeah.
They have, a few minutes ago, I heard you talking about the Pursuit Channel. You can watch O'Neill fishing for walleye.
Yes.
Where's the Pursuit Channel? How do you find something like that? I'd love to see you fishing for walleye. What's that? What's the Pursuit Channel? What's that?
The Pursuit Channel is both on DirecTV and the Dish networks. And it's nationwide into, like, I think 42 million households. If you get those two networks, Dish or DirecTV, then the Pursuit Channel is on there. I think it's number 360 or 370 or something of that nature. Do you get those channels?
I don't know. I have something called I have Comcast. I have no idea even where to look for something like that.
If you have Comcast, that doesn't necessarily mean. However, on your computer, you can go to YouTube, O'Neill Outside, and all the shows are there. And you can visit O'Neill Outside website, o'neilloutside.com, and all the shows are there also.
Well, I guess that takes care of looking for that, because I'm one of those people that doesn't have a computer and never has had one, and I wouldn't know where to look for it, so I guess I can't look for O'Neill on the Pursuit Channel fishing for walleye, even though I'd certainly like to.
There you are. Doggone it. I had an opportunity to get a new viewer, and I missed it. I'm really sad about that.
One thing I wanted to ask about, I heard you talk about, different types of cloudy conditions, this type blue worm, purple worm, chartreuse, and all those different things. That, to me, is too much trouble for fishing. I guess that's one of the problems I have. But when I was fishing in the stream, you can see it's real clear in there, and you can catch all the bluegill you want no matter what kind of bait you throw in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking live bait. Actually, I'm just talking about worms.
Sure.
You throw it in there, you can catch the small bait, and you leave it on there, try to catch the big one. You can just see that big fish just swimming right around, but it ignores you totally. What are you supposed to do?
I'll have some. Richard, I gotta go. Richard, I'm gonna put you on hold. So I'm gonna put Richard on hold. I've got to go to a break. This is O'Neill. You're listening to and watching on Facebook O'Neill Outside on Saturday mornings. Now we're going to still have a subject going on here with Richard. And where were we, Richard? Talking about colors of baits or what? We were talking about.
Like I said, I was fishing in the stream, and you can just see, you can just see the fish right there. It's real clear and everything. And the only thing that's hitting your bait, and what I'm using is worms, either night crawlers or the smaller ones.
Right.
And bluegill, you can catch them one after another. I mean, they'll hit, but then you got the big fish swimming around there just looking at you, and if you try to throw the bait right next to them, zoom, it'll just ignore you like you have some kind of body odor or something.
So,
I just wonder.
What is that, a trout? Was it
what
trout?
Do you do in a case like?
Was it trout that you were talking about that you can't get to bite? Is the trout?
I'm not sure if it's a bass or trout. It's one of the two. And they just swim. It's a real big one, and you can't seem to get a hold of them. They just won't bite.
All right,
like I said, you can catch all the bluegill you want.
Okay.
And I even left the bluegill on there when I caught one to see if it would hit that. It won't touch anything, and I'm just thinking blue worms and all that different type of stuff. I don't know. It's just like they're just ignoring your bait, and maybe they just have more. I don't know if they can see you or what the deal is where they just won't touch you. That's
okay, let me comment about that. It's likely if you're in a stream and you can see the fish in shallow water, yes, you can catch the brim because that's an aggressive creature. What you're probably casting to that won't take your bait is a trout. Now, rainbow trout, brown trout, whatever the case might be. If it's a trout, but he's not going to take that bait because he doesn't eat that. He eats flies and little bugs and little creatures that swim out from underneath the rocks. He's not a fish that will bite the same thing that a brim will. So that's...
Oh, brim and a bluegill are the same thing?
Brim and a bluegill are the same, yes.
Oh, okay. So the bluegill will hit the worms, but the others, you need a fly to
yes,
catch them.
That is correct. It's a different critter. A trout is likely. Richard, I'm glad you called and appreciate you listening.
I just look at that and I just think, can fish see you there?
Absolutely.
A bluegill just in, I mean, a fish see you? Does that make a difference? Is their eyesight good enough that they can see somebody standing there fish?
Absolutely. They can see you. They can see your movement. After all, they are tuned in to other predators like bears or whatever else that might be in the stream seeking to eat them. And they don't know you're a human, but they know that you don't belong there. There's one sure way to make sure that you don't catch any trout when you're fishing. Wear a white hat and see if you catch any. You won't catch any at all. Richard, I got to go, pal. Thanks a million here. Now we have, before I can get to Hank, we have the Silent Hero account coming up. Roanoke County, Virginia. Firefighter and paramedic was named this year's Red Cross Emergency Responder Hero for saving a baby while out of town on a hunting trip. These guys are always on the clock. Roanoke County firefighter Andrew Goodpasture. He came across a grandmother attempting to save her grandchild. He's driving along. He said, I look over, and I saw something out of the corner of my eye. It just didn't look right. Was that lady getting ready to do CPR on a child? Well, Goodpasture said they drove on by, but then he couldn't stop thinking about the woman and the baby. So he turned around just to be on the safe side, he said. The lady, the grandmother of the child, had the baby out on the trunk of the vehicle. He immediately jumped out, told the lady, hey, I'm a medic. Let me help. Goodpasture could not find a pulse, so he started CPR on the baby until the ambulance arrived. After a couple of minutes, we found a pulse, and he saw the child's hand move. Goodpasture said that the child eventually made a full recovery after the paramedics arrived, adding that the grandmother saved the child's life by pulling over in the car trying to save via CPR on the trunk of the car, and it stopped him. He just said, I'm glad I was there. I give full kudos to the grandmother. Without her doing that, I would never have seen it and would have driven on by. The way I look at it, she's the difference maker. She was, but we know who the true hero was.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Wow.
no kidding. 30 minutes after the hour. Right now, we've got time to talk to Hank the Yank. What do you say?
Dun, da, da.
Da-da-da.
How are you?
Yeah, I always let you follow the really good stuff. Huh?
The good stuff, man. That's right. The right stuff.
Yeah, the right stuff.
Well,
Tom Wolfe, right?
Yes.
He
that's
wrote
exactly
the right stuff.
The right stuff. So I put in yesterday. I waited and I put in at Buford Dam, and in less than 2 hours I was at the Morgan Falls Dam.
And if you had gone through there, you would have ended up in Columbus.
in Apalachicola eventually.
Yeah, that's right.
So they are generating 24/7 for the next 2 weeks. So
Oh, yeah.
any trout fishermen out there that listen to the show, stay off the Chattahoochee River for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's high and dangerous, and I've canceled all my carp trips over the next 2 weeks. I've switched over. I'm no longer on. I'm done with Lanier at this point.
I got you.
I'm into carp mode, but we can't fish the river just because there's just too much water.
Right. All right. Well, take a couple of weeks off and come up here and visit the cabin. There's a lot of
That's what I'm
work to
gonna
do.
do.
We've got some grass to cut and some trees to cut up. We need to split some logs. So you can just stay up here.
Maybe I'll start on the way on before I head up that way. I'll stop off at Strip Lanes.
Okay. Hey, good idea.
That's good.
But no, it's just everything is blown out. All the rivers, North Georgia, there's no trout fishing, even up in Helen in that area.
Yeah.
The whole state is kind of out of whack for the next, probably for the next few days.
I would say so.
The waters are starting to recede, but the hooch from Beaufort Dam all the way through Morgan Falls is unfishable. Your best bet is going to be fishing Lanier. If you've just got to get out and do something, go to one of your North Georgia lakes. But even the North Georgia lakes, you got to be careful. That water is, I mean, O'Neill, we were out. I had a carp trip we canceled yesterday, and the guys decided they still wanted to fish, so we went to Lanier. And for fly fishing right now, with that water as high as it is, fishing is really difficult, very, very tough.
I would imagine so.
But I will tell you, every dock that you passed on Lanier, every single dock, the gangway, the gangplank to get out to the dock is underwater. Every single one of them.
Yeah, I had
People
somebody
have a
call
water
earlier said you need your bathing suit to get to the bank.
It's unbelievable.
Henry?
It really is. The water came up so fast,
Henry,
that nobody could move the docks. Yes, ma'am.
let me ask you something seriously. Did it scare you being out there on the water like that?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No.
Well, I know you're used to fishing the Hudson Bay, so Hudson River.
The high water doesn't bother me. It's the only thing I will tell you. I'll tell you what spooked me, Gail, a little bit was the customers I took. I told them it was going to be a tough day and not to make any high expectations, but it was a father and son, and they wanted to get out on the water and fish together. So we went. I mean, we made the proverbial. We made lemonade out of lemons.
Yes.
We caught a few fish, and they were happy. But what was really nerve-wracking was, in order for me to get these guys as good a trip as I could, I told them we're going to need to fish dock lights for an hour. And so I had to travel from one end of the lake to the other to pick them up and go take them to dock lights in the dark.
Oh.
And I will tell you that that's no fun because there's so much debris floating in the water.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize the lake comes up, or what makes it so dangerous. It's not that the water is so high. It's that everything off the banks that's stuck on the banks is now floating. So there's just logs and styrofoam float dock, the docks that the floats that keep the docks up. All that stuff's floating, and you got to be very, very careful when you're navigating any waterway where the water comes up real quick, just because of all the debris that's going to be in the water. So you got to use best judgment, obviously.
Well, there you go. Good.
And that's it. That's all I got for you. I'll be up in the motherland next week, so I'm looking forward to that.
And we'll look forward to that call.
Hopefully I'll get to see your buddy Joe Maz. And they're catching some really big fish up there. They those big striped bass in the 40 to 50 pound range have just moved in the last week.
Okay.
So there's a lot of the reports up there are just phenomenal right now.
You know that the account of my fishing trips with Hank the Yank is in the new book.
How is that book coming along? Is that out now?
Yeah, just now in the last couple of days.
Oh, good.
Go to Amazon, and I'm going to send you a copy.
I would like an autographed copy.
Sure.
But I'd like Gail to autograph it.
You're the
it
greatest,
would be my
man.
pleasure.
You're the greatest. You really
All right.
are.
Listen, you guys. I look forward to reading it. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic.
Well, it's just a little story here and there. Just a little story here and there. And not without any surprise, the name of the book is O'Neill Outside.
What a surprise!
Yeah. How about what the heck? What else
That's
would it be
perfect.
called? No
well,
kidding.
I'm sure it'll have a lot of success out there. That's one. I'll look forward to reading it.
Well, the money goes to the Ronnie Thames Foundation for child burn victims.
Oh,
so
that's really nice.
Part of the thing.
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to leave you with this.
Okay.
Your mama raised you right.
Oh, yes, she did.
So.
Yes, she
all right,
did.
folks.
It has your picture in it too, Henry.
Yeah. All right, I got to go, Henry. See you later, pal. This is O'Neill. Jason, you hold on. I want to talk to you. This is O'Neill. Got to go to a break now. When we come back, I'll handle Roadster and Jason. We'll be back. We've got several subjects we need to get to before the morning closes out, so I've invited Jason Sebo to call the program this morning. because he's a seasoned hunter in Georgia, and we have some issues in front of us, don't we, Jason?
Hey, O'Neill, how are you this morning?
Good. Thank you for calling, Jason. Because I didn't want all the subject matter to come from me, I've invited Jason to call because there's an issue in Georgia that I'd like a seasoned hunter to comment on. And that is, Jason, the fact that there's been an executive order by the administration in Georgia that extends deer baiting all over the state with few exceptions. How do you feel about that, Jason?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, you're right. It's in regards to the letter that was submitted by the Wildlife Federation and co-signed by probably our most respected former DNR officers that served the state. As a seasoned hunter, I am opposed to it. And part of the reason why, and a lot of it stems on what was in the actual letter that was submitted. And I hope a lot of you have actually got a chance to read it. But, changing the behaviors of our wildlife species, obviously the letters, circles mostly around the deer species, bringing them to baiting stations rather than allowing them to forage on natural foods as a natural food source, which they still will, but we're manipulating their feeding behaviors by placing feeders and corn and other things out there to bring them away from their natural feeding foods or sources. And also the fact of spreading infectious diseases. I don't know about most of the hunters out there, but, I'm sure that 99.9% of them don't want, chronic wasting disease to be brought, to our state or to certain regions of the state to affect our deer population and our deer herd. Obviously the other thing that they touched on was, the increased explosion of feral swine, which the southern part of the state and other parts of the state have had a pretty big issue with. And, it's obviously proofs in the pudding, according to our wildlife resources and the folks that serve our wildlife know more about this than I would say most government officials.
Well, let me comment about that, Jason, just for a moment. O'Neill will always go with and side with the scientists, the biologists, the DNR. And the DNR doesn't want to do this. And what we're talking about here is they're extending the availability and permit to bait or to hunt white-tailed deer over bait in the southern zone and make it available all over Georgia. Is that not the basic issue?
That is the basic issue, yeah. And I'm sorry that I didn't touch on that. I just kind of dove right into why I was opposed to it.
Well, that's and I don't see the purpose in this, Jason. I don't see the upside. Do you?
I don't either. The other thing that they pretty much touched on also is, and maybe we can have some folks from the southern zone chime in eventually on this because they've been doing it for maybe 10 years now legally. But I feel it would change the time of the day that the deer would feed, moving them to more of a nocturnal pattern instead of their standard daily patterns. Obviously, that's going to change with the rut and those sorts of things. But the other thing that I feel like that is going to hurt, current and future hunters is just sitting over a bait pile. You're not going to hone your hunting skills. You're not going to be able to read the terrain on where to put a stand or where to put a ground blind in order to successfully harvest a deer in its natural environment or natural feeding environment.
Well, let me comment on that, and I'm old now, so I get to say things like this. Hunting over bait is not hunting, it's shooting.
Right.
You're not hunting, you're teasing the deer in. And hey, and if you want to be a successful hunter and you want to hunt that way, that's okay, but put in a food plot instead. food plot
Exactly.
lasts all day, and a food plot lasts all season for game and non-game species, not just a pile of corn for the deer to come in and munch on until you shoot him.
Sure. And I'm no biologist by any means, but I can, I hope, and I'm pretty sure I'm accurate in saying this, that food plots provide a lot more nutrition to our wildlife species than a pile of corn.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I hope most of the listeners, I'm sure they agree with you and with me. If I have, we have changes or issues or laws or changes in laws, when people ask me, and they probably do the same with you, your response is, whatever the DNR says, that's what I want.
Right.
Whatever they say, they look at things scientifically, biologically, and they look at it over the long term. The latest deer planning issues for the DNR last for 10 years, not going a letter over some executive's desk.
Correct.
That changes things
Yep.
automatically.
Yep, it's boots on the ground that matter, in my opinion.
Well put, Jason. That's well put. And I know you, correct me if I'm wrong, you're more often than anything, you're a muzzleloader hunter, aren't you?
Yeah, I do. Yep, I dabble in muzzleloading and archery hunting as well.
Okay.
I travel out of state a little bit to do some hunting, but yeah, mostly a muzzleloader and a bow hunter. So
Okay.
I'm a somewhat of a traditionalist, if you want to call it that.
I would call it that. You have to be an archer or a muzzleloader, you have to be a better hunter to some degree because you got to get closer.
Gotta get closer. That's
And
right. Yes,
you know
sir.
something? Once you release the arrow, once you pull the trigger, whether it's a Bergara B14 or a CVA muzzleloader or your bow, the hunt is over.
That's right.
The hunt is what
Yep.
counts. And feeding deer across Georgia via feeders and rows of corn, to me, that takes the hunt out of it.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Jason, I'm glad you called. You got up early for this, and I appreciate it.
No problem, O'Neill. Y'all have a great day.
You bet. Have a great weekend yourself, and good luck to you. I appreciate you calling. All right, there we go, and it's 48 after the hour. Let's talk now, I believe, to Roadster. He's calling from Doraville on O'Neill Outside. Good morning, sir. What do you say?
Good morning, Rascal. How are you?
Good.
Took Gale fishing and got a cold shower.
Yeah.
How'd that work out for
I
you?
fell in. Yeah. That was
Yeah, I got you. Let's when we hit our brim beds, let's push the barb down on the hooks so we don't have a lipless brim.
That's a good idea. You know something? You know what the barb is for originally?
I was always told to hold the bait on, but it's really not.
Well, that's what I've always been told. The barb on the hook was to hold the live bait on the hook.
Live bait on the hook. Okay.
That's
I got
right.
you. But I push them down. Regardless of how I fish, I always push them down because it's just the way I do it. But especially on fish that have really delicate lips, it does a job on them. For real.
Absolutely. I fish a lot in Canada, and in that province, it's all barbless hooks, and I don't think I ever lose a fish because I don't have a barb on the hook.
You don't lose many for sure.
No.
But the one you lose is going to be a trophy.
For sure.
The main reason I call it kind of blends in with your last subject.
Okay.
Was our natural predators and how our Creator works sometimes. You know, about 20 years ago, we started having coyotes start coming into Georgia, and all of a sudden now we have a feral pig problem, and we have an open season on coyotes now. I wonder how many feral piglets that coyotes really take care of.
Not very many.
It might be because we don't have enough coyotes.
Well, we've fouled up, and the coyotes are here, and their natural predator is gone. That was the red wolf.
The red wolf.
Yeah, the red wolf was gone. He's gone, and that used to be the one who took care of the coyotes. You know,
Right.
humans always foul it up, but we do.
Don't we? You know, here we got. It's like the Creator knew that we're going to have feral pig problem, so He starts bringing in coyotes, and then all of a sudden the coyotes get a little bit ahead of the pigs, but He knows best. It'll work out in the long run.
We're going to talk about that next week. I appreciate you calling, pal. I got to get to something right here. Listening
Love
to
you,
the
buddy.
program and giving us a call from time to time, I thank you for that very much.
All right, buddy.
You
Bye-bye.
bet. Good luck to you. Right now, it's time for the Medal of Honor tribute. If I can get through this one without choking up, then we'll get to this. These things are really tough. And it's 5:51, and it's time for the Medal of Honor tribute, Jason. Corporal Herschel Williams, Marine Corps, Iwo Jima, 1945. Quick to volunteer his services when our tanks were maneuvering to open a lane for the infantry, Corporal Williams daringly went forward alone to silence machine gun fire from the Japanese positions. Covered only by 4 riflemen, he fought desperately for 4 hours under terrific enemy small arms fire and repeatedly returned to his own lines to prepare demolition charges and obtain serviced flamethrowers. Struggling back frequently to the rear of the Japanese emplacements to wipe out one position after another. On one occasion, he mounted a pillbox to insert the nozzle of his flamethrower through the air vent, killing the occupants and silencing the gun. On another, he grimly charged enemy riflemen who attempted to stop him with bayonets, and he killed them all with a burst of flamethrower from his weapon. His unyielding determination in the face of ruthless enemy resistance were directly instrumental in neutralizing one of the most fanatically defended Japanese strong points and enabled his company to reach its objective. Corporal Williams' aggressive fighting spirit and valiant devotion to duty throughout this fiercely contested action sustained and enhanced the highest traditions of the U.S. Naval Service. Corporal Herschel Williams, Iwo Jima, 1945. And that is a hero. 53 after the hour, almost. 54. Yes, ma'am.
You did good.
I did good.
Yes.
I have a hard time getting through those sometimes.
Well, the more you read them, the easier, each one.
And you know something,
You
what
read
I
it
found?
over and over.
I don't get as choked up about reading these if I'm loud.
Oh, really?
If I'm loud and I try to read it real fast.
Mm-hmm.
If I read it slowly, I can't do it.
Well, you're loud anyway.
Okay, I am indeed that. Hey, we got to take a break. We'll be back. Only got a couple of more minutes for the program this morning, but he's been holding on quite a while, so let's talk to Jim. Is on the radio. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, sir. How are you and the little lady? I'm gonna be
Outstanding.
real quick because I know we don't have much time, so I'm going to ask you real quick. We had
Go.
our property logged. Of course, when loggers get through, there's a lot of mess and stuff. The roads have been reconstructed, but what can we put down that will come back in to help keep the deer and the other game that we are after down there coming in? And I'm just looking for something that we can put to hold the roads.
I'm sure there is, but let me, instead of trying to answer that question myself when I'm such an amateur, let me give you someone to call that will answer your question. You ready?
Yes, sir.
You need to call the Whitetail Institute. They're in Alabama, a little town called Pensacola, Alabama. There's a live person that will answer your call. Tell them what you want, and they will tell you what to do because they know.
All right, sir. All right, sir.
That's a real live person that'll answer that phone, and I assure you, your question, whatever it is, it will not be the first time he's heard that.
I understand.
Yeah.
By the way, thank you very much for the gentleman you brought on talking about the baiting. I don't agree with it either.
Me too.
That's one way we've had other problems, and we just don't need them up here.
Yeah.
The reason South Georgia does it, as you well know, is because they have a lot of crops down there. We don't raise as many crops in the northern part of the state as they do in the southern.
Yeah, I'm astounded because the vote came up 3 times. And being led by the Department of Natural Resources, that vote was turned down 3 times. Now it's an executive order. That's disappointing.
Sometimes we get stuff shoved down our throat we don't like anyway.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, buddy boy, have a great weekend here. I appreciate you calling and listening to the program.
Thank you, and y'all have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Your comments are most welcome. All right, this is O'Neill Outside with Woman Williams, Karen and Brian Green, Jason Byers, and you keep this in mind. I'm sorry I can't get to all the calls, and that is, if you're too busy to go fishing and take a kid along, it's summertime, then you're entirely too busy. This is O'Neill, and we'll see you guys next week.